Shalom from Interfaithfulness. We're here building bridges where history builds walls. I got a question for you. What's the hub of your life? Think about it. What is the center from which everything else radiates? Where do you live your days? For most of us, we live our days in the midst of all of our activities and all of our responsibilities. Whether you're a rabbi, or whether you're a barista in a Starbucks, whether you're a mother, a father, a student, a child, the center of your life is all the things you have to do. And for those of us who are people of faith, prayer is something that we add to that life. It becomes an adjunct to that. We ask God, God, help me prepare this message. Help me as I meet with this friend. Help me as I pray for my cousin. Oh God, please help me with this, help me with that. But we invite God into our lives, into our hub, and ask him to help us straighten it out. I realized the other day, we've got it all backwards. It took me a lifetime to realize it, but I was reading about the life of Yeshua, and I had a sudden realization that I want to share with you about the difference between the hub of his life and the hub of ours. If you look in the book of Luke, I invite you to look there, the Besorah of Luke, Luke's Besorah, the good news of Yeshua. According to Luke, he talks about Yeshua's prayer life quite a bit. And let me share with you just two passages. In Luke chapter 4, he spends a day of extraordinarily hectic ministry, healing people. He's thronged by hundreds, perhaps thousands of people, all of them desperate to touch him, to get healed by him, to bring their sick loved ones to him. And he's exhausted. And then we read, and when it was day, he departed and went into a desolate place. He went off by himself. And the people sought him, and they came to him, and they would have kept him from leaving them. But he said to them, I must preach the good news of the kingdom of God to the other towns as well, for I was sent out for this purpose. And he was preaching in the synagogues of Judea. So what was he doing that morning, a great while before the day? He was praying. He was seeking the face of God. He was seeking the mind of his Father. He was seeking that companionship and fellowship with his Father in order to regain his perspective in the midst of a very busy life. So that when these people, who were pathetic people, they had sick loved ones, they had nowhere else to go, when they came to him and pleaded with him to stay longer, he was in touch with his priorities and what he had to do. And he said, no, I'm sorry. I have to go to the other towns also, because that's why I was sent out. If we turn another chapter or so later, in chapter 6, we read this. In those days, he went out to the mountain to pray, and all night he continued in prayer to God. Now, you tend to think of Yeshua as like he's Superman. He's not Superman. He was a normal human being, sinless, but in all points just exactly as we are. And he got tired, and he needed sleep, just like you do, just like I do. But at this time, he realized that more than sleep, he needed to spend all night in prayer to God. Why? We read this here. And when the day came, he called his disciples, and he chose from them 12, whom he named Shlichim, apostles. Simon, whom he named Peter, etc., etc., etc. So what was he praying about that night? What was he talking to his Father about? What was he trying to feel out and weed out and decide in his heart and mind? And who was he praying that the Father would empower and help? Those 12 out of all of his disciples. So what do we learn from this about what was the hub of Yeshua's life? And what should be the hub of my life and your life? The hub of his life was his relationship with his Father. It's not that he lived his life in a bunch of stuff and he called his Father into it. No, he lived his life in intimate relationship with his Father, and everything else in his life radiated out from there. All of his decisions proceeded from that relationship. Now, I know that prayer is elusive. When we go to prayer, it's not like God all of a sudden shows up and then it's off to the races. you often have to wait a while and spend time reading the scriptures and praying a little more before you even begin to sense, I think God is here. It takes practice, it takes habit, it takes time. But my point today is only this. The hub of your life, the center of your life, the center of my life, should be our relationship with God, from which all of our decisions, all of our empowerment, and all of our life flows. Think about that. And I'll see you again here Into Faithfulness, where we're building bridges, where history builds walls. Shalom.